Now we will be dealing with the area of mathematical aptitude in arithmetic reasoning. So this is what we call in some other subjects or in some other examinations, some area might come from this which would be called as quantitative reasoning or quantitative aptitude. So this is more or less similar, but in the net examination the toughness level of this area will be comparatively low when we compare it to some other examinations like CAT exams or some other like. So in this area we will have to deal with ratio and percentage, averages, speed, distance and time, fractions, profit and loss, interest, etc. And then we have some other areas also. So what we will do is we cannot cover there is a whole lot of subjects under mathematical aptitude. So what we will be doing is we will be actually discussing the most important parts or the most important subjects or the most important topics here, and then for the rest of them we will be doing some questions, some sample questions and some previous year questions. More or less we will be covering a whole lot of area here, but some area will be giving step by step guidelines for how to solve the questions, and for the others we'll be doing some sample questions. So we'll dive right into it. The first one is ratio and percentages. So ratio we have discussed in some other subjects also. Ratio represents fraction, so A is to B or A by B. So whichever can be represented in fractions can be represented in ratios also. So ratio represents fractions. It can be written in the form A is to B or A by B. For it is for easier calculation. So it means that 2 is to 1, that is a ratio. It can be written in the form of 2 by 1. So 2 is to 1 means there are actually 3 parts. 2 plus 1, 3 parts, and for the first part we are allocating 2 and for the second part we are allocating 1. So that is how we come to the ratio 2 is to 1. So 2 is to 1 means there are 3 parts, and the first 2 parts belong to the first category and the one belongs to the second category. So it means that, so for example, if I say 5 is to 2, so it means that there are actually 7 parts and 5 parts for the first category, 2 parts for the second category. So that is another example. And the equation for when we want to find the correct value, what we do is ratio of one part divided by the total parts into the total observation. So that is just an equation that you will have to keep in mind when we do the problems. It will just come naturally to you, don't worry about that. So this is just some guidelines or some basic information about ratio. Whatever you have studied in your previous classes or in your school classes also, that is only what we have to apply here. So this is more or less a very simple area. Now we'll go with the examples first. Example: a class has 180 students of girls and boys in the ratio 4 is to 1 respectively. The question is, if 10 more boys were admitted to the class during the year, what is the total number of boys currently? So they have actually asked a direct question and then inserted a little a twist at the end, that's all. So the basic information here is the class has 180 students. The student ratio is 4 is to 1, girls and boys 4 is to 1 respectively. So girls 4, boys 1. So there are totally 5 parts and 4 parts are allocated to girls, 1 part is allocated to boys. And if 10 more boys were admitted to the class, what is the total number of boys? So we will first find out the number of boys and then we can add 10 so that we get the number of boys currently. So here, since the ratio is 4 is to 1, total parts are 5. And out of the 5, as I said before, 4 parts are given to girls, 4 parts belong to girls and 1 part belongs to boys. Now to solve that, we take the equation as we said before. To find out the number of girls, we take ratio of girls divided by total parts into total observation. For ratio of boys, we have for number of boys, we have ratio of boys divided by total parts into total observation. So here we have girls, the girls ratio of girls is 4 divided by total parts, that is 5, as we said before, that is 5, into total observation is 180. So 4 divided by 5 into 180 is the girls part, 1 divided by 5 into 180 is the boys part. Simple equation, we will actually solve it. So if we multiply, we get girls as 144, 4 divided by 5 into 180, 144, and boys we get 1 divided by 5 into 180, which is 36. So 144 plus 36, we get the total, which is 180. So out of 180, 144 are girls and 36 are boys. Now the question is, if 10 more boys were admitted to the class, what is the total number of boys currently? So 36 plus 10, it will give you 46. So right when you get 36, there is an option called 36. Don't rush and choose that answer. There is a little twist at the end of the question, which is 10 more boys are admitted. So 36 plus 10 will give you 46. So 46 is the answer, option B. Second, an example, one more example. Out of the 80 people who were examined, ratio of the people who liked Bollywood and Hollywood movies came in the ratio 18:12. How many people do not like Bollywood movies? So we have a total observation of 80. We have two parts, 18:12. Total would come to 30. So we have all the information that we need. The ratio is 18:12. So the total parts would be 18 plus 12, which is 30. Out of 30, 18 belongs to Bollywood and 12 belongs to Hollywood, because it is given there respectively, because 18:12. So 18 is for the first thing, that is Bollywood. 12 is for the second thing, that is Hollywood. Now to find out the people who likes Bollywood, we have ratio of Bollywood, or ratio of A, divided by total parts into total observation, which comes to 18 divided by 30 into 80. Then ratio of Hollywood, number of Hollywood, we get ratio of Hollywood divided by total parts into total observation, or ratio of B divided by total parts into total observation. So ratio of Hollywood is 12, divided by total parts is 30, into total observation is 80. So we have two equations, 18 divided by 30 into 80, 12 divided by 30 into 80. When we solve that, we'll get the answer. So number of people who likes Bollywood, we'll get as 48. Number of people who likes Hollywood, we'll get as 32. So 48 and 32, the total, which comes to 80. And the question here is, how many people do not like Bollywood? So we have the total number of people, which is 80. We can minus the people who like Bollywood. So 80 minus 48, we will get the answer as 32. So even though the questions and the procedures will be all very simple, all you have to keep in mind is there might be a little twist in the question. In the previous question, 10 was added to the final answer. Here we know the number of people who like Bollywood, we know the number of people who like Bollywood. The question was how many people do not like Bollywood. So out of the total, we minus we subtract the number of people who like Bollywood, and then we get the answer. So this is how you do a ratio question. You take the total parts and the ratio of part A, ratio of part B, and then you have the equation here, ratio of part A divided by total parts into total observation, ratio of part B divided by total parts into total observation. So if you apply that equation everywhere, you will get the answer. And as I said before, remember about be cautious about sometimes there will be a twist in the question, and when you do that, you will get the answers correctly. Next area comes the area of percentage. So some basic information. Percentage means out of 100, or a number which is expressed in the fraction of 100. Fraction of 100 means in the denominator we'll get as 100. So 70% means 70 by 100. So any number which is out of 100, we can say it as percentage. It is denoted with the symbol, as the symbol of percentage. The symbol is there, you can see it on the screen. So 20%, for an example, 20% of 80 can be written as 20 by 100 into 80. If you know the tricks to find the percentages, you can use that, or if not, you can use the long division method, which means that if it is 20 by 100 into 80, so the trick is to you can cut, you can cross multiply sometimes, and you can take the common factors. So if you know that, you can do it very easily. It is recommended that you study those simple tricks and tips which you studied in the lower classes. You know how to take the common factors, how to cut some of the numbers, some of the common numbers, some of the even numbers. You can cut by 2, you can cut by 4, and it is recommended that you do that. Or if you don't know something, or if you can't do something, you can go for the long division method. But it takes a lot of time, and this is not a question which you should take a lot of time. So it is recommended that you should study those methods. So those methods, when we do some problems, we will explain it. All the other things you will have to learn. Now the first example: what percentage of 3570 is 1428? Options are 45, 30, 40, 60. So the question is, what percentage of 3570 is 1428? So here there is a simple method. We actually change some words into symbols. So instead of what, we can write it as x, because what we don't know. So we can use an unknown number or an unknown letter as x. So instead of what, we can change it into x. Instead of percentage, we can change it into divide by 100. We actually told, because percentage means out of 100. So instead of the word percentage, we can change it into 100. Instead of the word of, we can use the symbol of multiplication, into. And instead of the word is, we can write it as equal to symbol. So this is an easy method to convert a sentence into an equation, a sentence into numerical form. So what percentage of 3570 is 1428? When we use this method, or when we use these symbols, and then we can convert x by 100 into 3570 equals 1428. So with a simple method, what we did is we actually interchanged or transformed a sentence into a numerical form, or a sentence into an equation. Now we have x by 100 into 3570 equals 1428. So it is actually very solvable by anyone. So when we take x into one side and the constants to other side, we get x equals 1428 divided by 3570 into 100. And when we solve it, we get 40 as the answer. So the only thing that is difficult here is to change the sentence into a numerical form, or sentence into an equation, and that is a trick that I just told you. We can change what into x, we can change is into equal to symbol, we can change percentage into divide by 100, we can change of into either into sign or the multiplication sign. Now for example, if we get a word as by, we can change it into a division form. If we get the word sum or add or plus, we can actually change it into a plus sign. If you get minus or from or subtract or difference, we can change it into a symbol of subtraction. So that is how we change a sentence into a mathematical form. Now the second example, total runs scored in a cricket match by team A and team B was calculated as 640. So both of the team together, they scored a runs of 640 in the ratio 3:2. If Mr. X of team A scored 25% of his team's runs, what was his total runs? So this is a combination of ratio and percentage. We have ratio of 3:2, we have question of 25%. So what we have to do is, first we have to actually find out what score team A scored and how many runs team B scored. And out of team A's score, 25% was actually scored by Mr. X. So first we have to split this 640 into 3:2 as a ratio. We have to split into 3:2, and we know that 3 is scored by team A and 2 is scored by team B. And out of this 3 which is scored by team A, we have to find the 25%. So we know that 3 and 2 are not the scores. Those are just the representation of scores. So we have to find out how much scores each team has scored. So this is a combination question of including ratio and percentage. Ratio is 3:2, so we know that the total number of parts is 3 plus 2, 5. So out of this 5, 3 parts belong to team A, 2 parts belong to team B, just how we did the ratio question. So ratio of the score of team A we can find out by the equation of ratio that we studied before. Ratio of team A divided by total parts into total observation, which comes into 3 divided by 5 into 640, which comes to 384 runs. Next, ratio the runs of team B we can calculate as ratio of team B divided by total parts into total observation, which is 2 is the ratio of team B, total parts 5 into total observation is 640, which comes to 256. So team A scored 384 runs and team B scored 256 runs. The question does not end there. We just got the runs of both the teams. Now the question is, if Mr. X of team A scored 25% of his team's runs. So 25% of team A's runs was scored by Mr. X. So in the question it is said that Mr. X of team A scored 25% of his team's runs. So team A's score is 384. Mr. X's run is 25% of 384. So 25% means 25 by 100. Of can be transformed into a multiplication sign. So 25 divide by 100 into 384. When we calculate it, we get the answer as 96. So even if you get a combination question like this, we can actually solve it using the ratio method and the percentage method. Here we just found out the runs of teams by the ratio method, and then we applied the percentage method and we got the answer as 96. The next area is average. So as you know, average is familiar to everyone. Average means basically it means arithmetic mean. So if we get a load of numbers, we add everything and we divide it by the total number of observations. So it is very much it is very familiar to everyone. It is derived by adding all the observations and dividing the number of observations. So don't get confused by it. It is very simple. Sum of all the observations divided by number of observations. So if we get two numbers 6 and 4, so the sum of the observations 6 plus 4 divided by number of observations. So we have only two number of observations, 6 and 4. So 6 plus 4 divided by 2, which is 10 by 2, gives you 5. Just an example. So you will not get such a direct question there. You'll have to improvise when you get a question. So we'll go directly to the question. The first example: profits of a company in 5 consecutive years in millions were 65, 78, 52, 87 and 65. Find the average profits of a company. So here we have the profits of a company for 5 years: 65 million, 78 million, 52 million, 87 million and 65 million. So they're just asking us to find the average profits of the company. So here we can actually directly go into the equation: sum of all the observations divide by number of observations. So we have sum of all the observations as 65 plus 78 plus 52 plus 87 plus 65. So if we add all these, we get 347 as the answer. Number of observations 5. So we have 5 numbers. So number of observations is 5. So average we can calculate as sum of the observations divided by number, which is 347 divided by 5, which is 69.4 millions. So that is a pretty much straightforward question. Next question: marks of a student in exams were 98, 78, 85, 92, 88, 89, 79 and 85. What is his average mark? So we have a list of marks that was scored by a student. It's in the range of every mark is above 75. So we can assume that he or she is a studious student. 98, 78, 85, 92, 88, 89, 79 and 85. So those are his or her marks. Now they are telling us to find the average. This is also pretty much a very straightforward question. So sum of all the observations divided by number of observations, that is the equation. Sum of all the equations, we have 98 plus 78 plus 85 plus 92 plus 88 plus 89 plus 79 plus 85. So if we add all these, we get the answer as 694. So it is all up to you to add all the numbers in a very fast manner, because there is a net question, so you'll have only very little time on one question. So add all the numbers very fast. And then number of observations, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8 observations here. So we'll actually divide 694 divide by 8. So average we have 694 divide by 8. We get the answer as 86.75. So that is his average mark. This is also a straightforward question. Now the third question. Later, so this is a continuation of the second question. Later it was found that one of the marks were calculated wrongly as 98 instead of 89. What is the correct average? So this is actually a continuation of the second question. So one of the marks is actually wrong, which is wrongly as 98 instead of 89. So the correct mark is 89, and instead of that here it is marked as 98. So the first mark in the previous question, which is 98. So it is not actually 98. There also the mark is actually 89. So what is the correct average now? So in the previous question we found out the average as 86.75. So that is actually a wrong average, and when we change that, we actually disposed the 98 and then we brought in 89 because that was actually calculated wrongly. And now what is the correct average? So how will we find out? So what we can do is, if we have all the other observations, we can actually remove the 98, we can input 89, then we can add again, and then we can divide and then find the answer. But sometimes you will not be given the observations, you will be just given the average and the wrong number and the right number. So imagine you are given just the average is 86.75. Then the wrong number was 98 and the correct number is 89. So if you get a question like that, the old average is 86.75, number of observations is 8. So the total marks, to find out the total marks, we multiply it, because we divided the number to get the average. Now we multiply to get the total marks. So it is actually a reverse scenario. So 86.75 into 8, we get it as 694. Then we subtract the wrong mark. So 694 minus 98 and add the correct mark. So 694 minus 98 plus 89, which gives us 685. Now the new average is 685 divided by 8, which gives you 85.625. Now here what happens is, you might be thinking the easiest way to do is just remove the 98, just input the 89 and then add, and then you can divide, you can get the answer. As I said before, sometimes you'll not get all the observations with you. Just you will get the old average, the wrong mark and the right mark. So when you get a question like that, how you can do the answer, do the question, that is how I explained right now. You have the old average, you have the number of observations. When you multiply that, you will get the total number of marks. From the total number of marks, you can subtract the wrong mark, you can add the correct mark, and then you can divide by the number of observations, you will get the correct average. So you will get sometimes not only the straightforward questions, sometimes you will get some twisting questions like this, and this is how you answer those. Speed, distance and time. This is also a basic mathematical aptitude question, or a basic quantitative question that we have studied right from our school years. So speed, distance and time. So sometimes we will be given the speed and distance, we will be told to find out the time. Sometimes we will be given the time and distance, so it can come in any combination. Sometimes we will be told to find out the average distance or the average speed. So for average speed and all, we have some other equations also. So we will start. So just the equations, how to find speed, how to find distance, how to find time, that is all that we are going to tell you, because that is all what is needed. All the other things you will already have a very good idea. Speed equals distance by time, distance equals speed into time, time equals distance by speed. So just by getting one equation, you can find out all the other equations. You can take one to the other side, the other to the one side, one to the other side, anything. So by getting one equation only, you can have all the other equations with you. So speed equals distance by time, distance equals speed into time, time equals distance by speed. Now two things we have to understand here. The first thing is how to convert. So sometimes the speed, it will be given in kilometer per hour, and the distance might be given in meters. So you have to make the units same. You can't actually compare kilometer in speed and the meter in the distance. So you have to make it the same. Sometimes the speed will be given in kilometer per hour and the time will be given in seconds. So to convert kilometer per hour into meter per second, you have to multiply the speed with 5 by 18. So that is actually a magic number. So don't ask why it is 5 by 18. There is a logic behind that, but we don't have to go behind that. Just assume that it is a magic number, and to convert kilometer per hour into meter per second, multiply with 5 by 18. And to convert, if you have meter per second and then you want to convert it into kilometer per hour, just the reciprocal of it, you have to multiply it with 18 by 5. So I'll just say it once more. To convert kilometer per hour into meter per second, multiply with 5 by 18. To convert meter per second into kilometer per hour, multiply with 18 by 5. Now the second thing we have to understand is how to find the average of speeds. So if you have one speed with the same distance, maybe 50 kilometer per hour, and another speed 55 kilometer per hour. To find out the average, we can't just add it and subtract it by and divide it by the the number of observations, because it is speed and it is given in 2 units, kilometer per hour or meter per second. So to find out the average of two speeds, we have the equation 2xy divided by x plus y. So that is an equation to find out the average of two speeds. So this might be all you need to find out the answers for the questions regarding speed, distance and time. We'll go for the examples. The first example: if Sam is traveling at a speed of 40 km per hour, how much time would be needed to cover a distance of 90 km? So a very easy question. You have the speed, you have the distance, you have speed as 40 km per hour, you have distance as 90 km, both of them are in the same units, there is no meter or there is no seconds here. So you have speed, you have distance, you have to find out the time. So according to our guidelines, we have time equals distance by speed. So speed is 40 km per hour, distance is 90 km, time equals distance by speed, which is 90 by 40, which gives you 2.2 hours. So you have found out the time. You don't have to convert it into meter per second or anything, because everything is in the same units. Second question: Mr. X travels at a speed of 10 meter per second for 2 hours. How much distance will he cover? So here we have speed, we have time, but speed is given in meter per seconds and time is given in hours. So time is in hours, speed we have seconds there. So we'll have to convert either one. We can convert any of these. We can either convert 2 hours into seconds, or we can convert 10 meter per second into kilometer per hour. So whichever it is our convenience. Both the methods we have already studied. So here speed we have 10 meter per second. We'll convert that into kilometer per hour. So 10 into 18 by 5. So meter per second, if you want to convert into kilometer per hour, we already studied, we will have to multiply with 18 by 5. So 10 into 18 by 5, we get the answer as 36 kilometer per hour. Now we have the speed in kilometer per hour and we have the time as 2 hours. Now we can easily find out the distance. Distance equals speed into time, which is 36 into 2, we get the answer as 72 kilometer. So it was a rather not a very straightforward question. We had to convert it, but after converting it, it became a very easy question. Now one more example: Ram travels from A to B at 50 km per hour. Sunita travels the same distance at 60 km per hour. What is their average speeds? So normally in the case of average, we know that we just add the the observations, sum of the observations, then we divide it by the number of observations, we will get the answer. But in the case of speed, we will not get the answer that correctly. So in normal cases, we will have 50 plus 60 divided by 2, we will get the answer as 55. And there is also an option called 55. So don't jump and click the answer of 55 there. Here we have to, since it is a question of speed, we will have to do a calculation, or we will have to apply an equation there. Equation we already we have already studied: 2xy divided by x plus y. So 2xy in the numerator, x plus y in the denominator. So x is the first speed, y is the second speed. So 2 into 50 into 60 will be coming in the numerator, divided by x plus y, which is 50 plus 60. So you'll have 2 into 50 plus 60, which gives you 6000, divided by 110, which is 50 plus 60. So we have 6000 divided by 110. The answer would be 54.54. So we have the option as 54.54 there. So that is how you do an average of speed question. So as I said before, since it is average, don't jump and write it as 55 km per hour. So you will have to do some calculation. So the average of speed calculation or the average of speed equation is actually given to you, and if you have the equation, speed equals distance by time, distance equals speed into time, time equals distance by speed. So those are the basic equations. Along with that, these two, how to convert and the average of two speeds, along with that, if you have these two information, you will be able to do it very easily. Next comes fractions. So a fraction is a rational number expressed in the form p by q, where q not equals 0. So that is the definition of a fraction. Fraction is a rational number expressed in the form p by q, where q not equals 0. So q is in the denominator, so the denominator should not be 0. So any number written in a fraction form, or a 1 by 2 or 2 by 4, 36 by 24, 85 by 68. So any number written in a division form or in a form p by q is called a fraction, but the only condition is the denominator should not be 0, where q should not be 0. So that is the only condition there. So any number which comes in that form, we can call it as a fraction. So we are actually using fractions in our daily life or in our daily studies. So we just don't know, maybe it is called a fraction or not, but it is a fraction. P is known as the numerator and the q is the denominator. So when we write in the form p by q, p is the numerator and q is called the denominator. These are all just the basic information. Now some types of fractions: proper fraction, improper fraction, inverse fraction, mixed fraction, decimal fraction, and recurring fraction. There are many other types also. These are just the basic types. So you will not get the question as what is a proper fraction or what is an improper fraction, anything like that, but these are just for the better understanding of the questions that we are about to do. So proper fraction is where numerator is less than the denominator. So 1 by 2, 2 by 4, or 123 by 234. There you go, an example. So any fraction where the numerator is the smaller number, we call it as a proper fraction. Improper fraction, just the opposite, where numerator is greater than the denominator. 3 by 2, 34 by 21, 200 by 100. So any number where the numerator is greater than the denominator, we call it as an improper fraction. Now inverse fraction means if you are given a fraction, if we inverse it, or the reciprocal. So if you are given 1 by 2, the inverse is 2 by 1. If you are given 12 by 3, the inverse is 3 by 12. So inverse fraction means if you are given a fraction and then you exchange the numerator and the denominator, or you change the numerator and the denominator, it will give you inverse fraction. Then you have mixed fraction, which is a combination of an integer and a fraction. We say it as 2 3 by 4, or 7 5 by 2, 11 2 by 3, or you have 9 10 by 12. So that is a mixed fraction, which is a combination of a whole number or a combination of integer with a fraction. Then you have decimal fraction, where denominators are the squares of 10, 1 by 10, 1 by 100, 1 by 1000, 1 by 10,000. Any number where the denominator is the squares of 10, 10 or squares of 10. That is a decimal fraction. And at last we have the recurring fraction, where the decimal points do not end if we solve them. So for example 1 by 3. So if we do the long division method, we will get the answer as 0.3333. So it will not end, it will go just like that. So those are called recurring fractions, where the decimal points would not end if we actually solve them. So these are some types of fractions. Now some tips to solve some problems. If two fractions are given and we have to find which is bigger. So sometimes we will get that one of them is bigger than the other just by looking. So if we get the question 1 by 2 and 4 by 2, which is bigger? So 1 by 2 we know that it is 1 by 2 means half or 0.5, but 4 by 2 means actually we can cut and we can get the answer as 2. So just by looking, sometimes you can know that one of the fraction is bigger than the other fraction. But sometimes sometimes you'll get the question 324 by 160, 200 by 123, which is bigger. So sometimes when you get the question like that, and you don't know which is the bigger of the both, then there are some actually some tips to understand which is bigger. So if two fractions are given and we have to find out which is bigger, we cross multiply. So if two fractions are given, p by q and r by s, so p by q is a number, r by s is another fraction number, and we have to find out which is bigger, we cross multiply. We multiply p with s and q with r. Then after doing that, if ps is greater than rq, then we can know that pq is greater than rs. If ps is less than rq, then we can know that pq is less than rs. If ps equals rq, then we know that pq equals rs. Don't get confused by this. The only thing you have to check is where is the numerator. If the numerator is with the highest number, then that fraction will be higher. So for example, if you have taken pq and rs, you might cross multiply one numerator with the other's denominator. So that is how we cross multiply. So you multiply p with s and r with q. Then you see which is the bigger number, and then you see which numerator, where is the bigger numerator. So if you multiply p with s and that is the bigger number, then that number where p comes, that is the highest fraction. When we do a problem, it will become easier for you. So we have to check which numerator is part of the bigger number, so that fraction will be bigger. Now when we are doing mathematical operations on fractions, so to add and subtract two fractions, we have to find out the LCM. We can only add fractions, can be added and subtracted only if their denominators are the same, and if the denominators are not the same, we have to find out the LCM, and then only we can add or subtract. And for multiplication, we can actually multiply the fractions very directly, numerator into numerator and denominator into denominator. So if we have p by q and r by s, we can write it as p into r divided by q into s. We can actually multiply it directly. For fraction, for fraction divisions, what we do is we inverse the second fraction. So we studied what is inverse. We inverse the second fraction and then multiply them directly. So if we have a question 1 by 2 divided by 3 by 4, so we have p by q r by s, 1 by 2 3 by 4, then this can be written as 1 by 2 into 4 by 3. So 1 by 2 divided by 3 by 4 actually becomes 1 by 2 into 4 by 3, and then we can multiply it directly. Now we'll go to the questions. First question, find 5 by 6 of 630. So we have done a similar problem in percentage. Find the percentage of such and such number. So instead of percentage, we have fractions here. So find 5 by 6 of 630. So here we know that the word of can be replaced with the into or the multiplication symbol. So we have to find 5 by 6 into 630. So here we have many methods. It all depends upon the mathematical capability or the quantitative capability of each individual student. Some people can do multiplication and division very fastly. Some people some people take a lot of time. Some people do long division. Some people they cut and do that type of problem. They find out the common factor. So it actually depends upon each individual's personal capability, and I recommend that you keep on doing some basic problems like this, so that you won't have to use long division method. And even if you use some tips and tricks like that, you won't go wrong. Sometimes people use the fast method and then go wrong. Sometimes people use the slow method, but even if it is correct, they lose a lot of time. So it is according to each person's individual capability. So either here what we can do is we can split 630 into 3 into 7 into 30. So 3 into 7 into 30 gives you 630, and then we can do it. So 5 by 6 into 3 into 7 into 30. So we can take the common factors and then cut. We get 5 into 105, which is 525. Or instead of that, we can do the basic direct multiplication and arrive at the answer, but it might take a lot of time. Choose whichever method which best suits you. So if we take the long method, we can do 5 into 630 and then divide it by 6. We'll get the answer as 525 itself. So this is a straightforward question. The second question, which of the following is greater? So we are given two numbers, 16 by 30 or 20 by 36. So which of the following is greater? So we write 16 by 30 and 20 by 36 as said before. Then we cross multiply and check the original numerators. So the original numerators are 16 and 20. The numerator which has resulted in the greater number will be the greater fraction. So if you don't understand it, just after doing it you will understand. We will take 16 by 30 and 20 by 36, then we will cross multiply. So 16 into 36 and 20 into 30. So we will get 16 into 36 and 20 into 30. Now we have two numbers. So check the original numerator. So the original numerators will be highlighted right now, 16 and 20. And when we just after multiplying 16 into 36 will give you 576, 20 into 30 will give you 600. So which is the greater number here? Obviously 600 is the greater number here. And which numerator has resulted in 600? The numerator called as 20. So you have two highlighted numerators there, which is 16 and 20, and the number 20 or the numerator 20 has resulted in the greater number of 600. So which fraction has 20? 20 by 36 has 20. So that number is the higher number. So here the number 20 is the numerator which is part of the greater number. The greater number is 600. So that fraction is greater. So 20 by 36 is greater than 16 by 30. So as I said before, just have an understanding about the two original numerators, which is 16 and 20. And then after that just cross multiply 16 into 36, 20 into 30, we will get 576 and 600. So obviously 600 is the greater number. So which is the numerator that has resulted in the formation of 600? So obviously 20 is the numerator we have, that has resulted in 600. So which fraction has 20? That fraction will be higher. Now the third question, divide 4 by 90 with 2 by 60. So this is a division of fractions. So division of fractions, we have a guideline there. So while dividing fractions, what we do is we inverse the second number and then multiply directly. So 4 by 90 divided by 2 by 60, we can write it as 4 by 90 into 60 by 2. So this becomes a very easy problem. Now it becomes very easy to calculate. 4 by 90 into 60 by 2, we can actually cut some common factors. We get it as 2 by 3 into 2 by 1, which is actually 4 by 3. So that is how you come to a conclusion using all the guidelines that we have provided before. The next area is profit and loss. So how to find profit and loss if you are given certain elements. So here data will be given about selling price, which is SP, cost price, which is CP, profit, loss, profit percentage, loss percentage. So data will be given on any of these, and then you will have to find, sometimes they will ask about profit, sometimes about loss, sometimes about how much is the selling price, sometimes how much is the loss percentage. So they might ask anything, and these data will be given to you. So cost price means the cost for which the seller has got the item, not the buyer. It has nothing to do with the buyer. So cost price means for how much money the seller has acquired the item. Selling price means for the price for which the seller sells the item to the customers or sells the items to the buyers. So that is actually a basic information. So how will we find the profit? Profit equals SP minus CP. Loss equals the opposite, CP minus SP. So if the cost price is higher than the selling price, it will result in a loss, and to find out the loss, it was loss equals CP minus SP. Now how to find the profit percentage? Profit percentage equals profit divided by cost price into 100. Loss percentage means loss divided by cost price into 100. So while calculating about profit percentage and loss percentage, just think that it has nothing to do with selling price, it has everything to do with only cost price. So profit percentage equals profit divided by cost price into 100. Loss percentage gives you loss divided by cost price into 100. Now there are two equations that you will have to keep in mind. For finding out the selling price, if the profit percentage or the loss percentage is given. So selling price equals 100 plus profit percentage divided by 100 into cost price, or if it's a loss that is given, you will have selling price equals 100 minus loss percentage divided by 100 into cost price. Now if cost price is given, if you want to find cost price, if the selling price is given and the profit percentage is given, cost price equals 100 divided by 100 plus profit percentage into selling price, or cost price equals 100 divided by 100 minus loss percentage into selling price. So if profit percentage is given, you will have to add. If loss percentage is given, you have to subtract. And if you want to find the selling price, then the profit percentage will come in the numerator, and if you want to find the cost price, then the profit percentage and the loss percentage will come in the denominator. So you'll have to keep in mind those two equations, if there are some complicated questions. Now we'll go to some examples. The first example: a product was bought at rupees 120 and sold for 200. What is the profit percentage? So it's not like they'll give you SP and CP and tell you to find the profit. They'll play with the profit percentages because it is a little bit complicated to calculate. But if you know the equations which is given to you, which is given directly to you, so if you know the equations, it will be very easier for you to find. So a product was bought at rupees 120 and sold for rupees 200. What is the profit percentage? So the profit percentage, we have the equation very directly, which is profit divided by cost price into 100. So which is, the profit is 80. Where did we get the 80 from? The 200 is the selling price, 120 is the cost price. So 200 minus 120 is 80. That is a profit. Divided by the cost price is 120, which is given directly, into 100. So 80 divided by 120 into 100, which gives you the profit percentage of 66.67. So if a person buys a product for 120 and sells it for 200 rupees, he has a profit of 66%, not the amount, profit percentage of 66.67%. Second question: a man purchased a product for 170 rupees. He wants to sell it for 20% profit. So what should be the selling price? So here the cost price is given and the selling percentage is given, or the profit percentage is given. So how much, for what amount should he sell to get a profit of 20%? So here also the equation is given: selling price equals 100 plus profit percentage divided by 100 into cost price. So profit percentage is 20, so 100 plus 20 divided by 100 into cost price. So we get it as 120 divided by 100. The cost price is 170. So 120 divided by 100 into 170. So that is an equation. So 120 minus 100 will give you 1.2. So 1.2 into 170 will give you the answer of 204. So if he has made a purchase for 170 rupees, he has to sell it for 204 rupees to make a profit of 20%. So if you have the equation, you can do it very easily. Now we'll do one more problem. How much loss in rupees would a person make if an item is sold for 120 rupees with a loss of 20%? So you have an item which he sold for 120 rupees and he incurred a loss of 20%. So what is that amount of money which he has lost? So we have the equation: selling price equals 100 minus loss percentage by 100 into cost price. So here we have the equation of selling price, but we actually have the amount of selling price, but the cost price is unknown. So we take the cost price as X, or maybe just leave it as cost price. So selling price is 120. So 120 equals 100 minus loss percentage is 20. So 100 minus 20 by 100 into cost price. 120 equals 100 minus 20 is 80. 80 by 100 is 0.8. So 120 equals 0.8 into cost price. So cost price will give you 120 divided by 0.8. If you take the constants to one side, we'll get cost price equals 120 divided by 0.8, which gives you 150. So you have the cost price, you have the selling price. Now you can find the loss very easily. Loss equals CP minus SP, which is 150 minus 120, which gives you 30. So here also you have to understand that you'll have all the equations. So sometimes they'll confuse you and ask something about cost price, or if it is the equation for selling price, they'll ask you the cost price. So you have to take it to the other side of the equal to sign, and then if you know the basic linear equations and all, you can do it very easily. The last area we'll be discussing here is interest. So interest consists of simple interest as well as compound interest. So we'll be giving you the equation and we'll be doing one simple problem. So in interest also we have some concepts, or we have some equations here: principal, rate, time. So these are the three elements or three concepts. So principal means the amount of money which is deposited in the bank or borrowed from a person or a bank. rate is the rate of interest, time means the time for which money is deposited or borrowed, maybe for 2 years he has deposited for 2 years, or she has borrowed for 3 years. So time means the time for which it is borrowed or deposited. So we have principal, rate, time, which we actually use abbreviations as PRT, principal for P, rate as R, and T as time. Then we have simple interest, which is SI. So simple interest is the equation of simple interest is P into R into T by 100, or we usually say PRT by 100 or PTR by 100. And there is a concept called amount also. So amount means the principal plus the simple interest. So there are only two equations that we have to understand in the case of simple interest, which is simple interest equals PTR by 100 and the amount equals P plus SI, or principal plus simple interest. Now sometimes in the question we will have to find about compound interest. So compound interest, the equation of compound interest is P into 1 plus R by 100 whole raised to T minus 1. So you have the equation on the screen, you will have to do it just like that. There are brackets, there are curved brackets, there are square brackets, there is a a square there, or raised to T, raised to time. So you have to understand about all those. So the equation for compound interest is P into 1 plus R by 100 whole raised to T minus 1. Now we'll go for the examples. First example, find the simple interest for a borrowing of rupees 2 lakh for 3 years at the rate of 8% per annum. So we have the equation SI, or simple interest, equals PRT by 100 or PTR by 100. So P, we have the principal amount as 2 lakh, R we have the rate as 8%, T we have the time as 3 years. So we have 2 lakh into 3 into 8 divided by 100, we have 48 lakh divided by 100, and the answer will be, the simple interest will be 48,000. So here they have not asked about the amount, they have just asked about the simple interest. So the answer is 48,000. Next question about compound interest. Find the compound interest for a principal amount of rupees 50,000 for a period of 3 years at the rate of 5% per annum. So principal amount is 50,000, rate is 5% per annum, and time is 3 years. So the equation of compound interest is P into 1 plus R by 100 whole raised to T minus 1. So instead of P we will write as 50,000, instead of R we will write 5, and instead of raised to T, whole raised to T, we will write whole raised to 3. So while calculating, we have 50,000, 1 plus 5 by 100. So 1 plus 5 by 100 we cannot add, we have studied in fractions, we cannot add it directly because the denominators are not the same. So when we make the denominators same, we will have 105 by 100 whole raised to 3 minus 1. Then 50,000 into 105 divided by 100 will give you 1.05. So 50,000 into 1.05 raised to 3 minus 1. So you will have 50,000 into 1.157625 minus 1 in the bracket, and 50,000 in the outside. So you will get 50,000 into the first number minus 50,000 into the second number. That's how we remove the bracket. So you will have 57,881.25 minus 50,000, and the answer will be 7,881.25. So if you get a question about compound interest, there are two things that you will have to keep in mind. The first thing is the equation of compound interest itself. You'll have to by heart it, or you'll have to study the equation of compound interest. And the second thing is you'll have to do the calculations. So don't get lost, or don't get confused or mistaken in the calculations. These are actually the simple, the multiplication, the divisions, squares and all. It will not come as a very complicated questions or complicated calculations, just the basic things. So you'll have to do the divisions and the multiplications, and after before that you'll have to do the equation, or by heart the equation of compound interest, and after that you will do the problem, and then you'll arrive at the answer. Right now here the answer is 7,881.25.